Pack Radio, a podcast produced by Winding Trails Media for writers by writers.
Writers, agents, and publishers, for the first time since the Gutenberg Press, find themselves lost in a maze of mystery as technology alters the shape of the publishing industry. Searching for Answers is a group of writers throwing pop culture, writing, and publishing into a crucible of clarity, passion, and humor. This group is the Right Pack.
Welcome back to Right Pack Radio. This is your host and crazy producer, David Allen Lucas, currently working on a bunch of crazy stuff. In fact, the topic today is going to be perfect for something in which I'm doing. If you are in the St. Louis area and if you are participating in NaNoWriMo, check out the St. Louis City's Central Library. Every Saturday from 2 to 5, they're doing a lock-in, and they will have speakers there as well talking about various writing things. I am going to be there the weekend, November 26th, the weekend right after you're all stuffed with turkey, if you're here in the United States. And I'm going to be talking about the 7 story structures and how to construct story based on them. And with me today is my lovely co-host,
Kathleen Kayembe. I am a paranormal romance author under the pen name Kaseka and Vita, and I am currently doing things that are new and challenging to me after years, like submitting things for publication. So wish me luck, guys!
Yay! And also with us, I'll just go around this way.
Alright, I'm Jennifer Stolzer. I'm a children's book author and illustrator. I will be appearing with our Brad Cook and anyone else coming to the St. Charles local authors.
We got
Fedora as well. We're going to be, what's the date on that?
The 19th of November.
Yes.
6 to 8.
At the library.
At
location.
Spencer
Spencer
branch.
Road branch. It's a nice one.
So come
It's
on
the
out
local author expo.
and see a whole bunch of local St. Louis authors, including 3 in this room.
Yes.
Fabulous.
And speaking of that next one,
I am Fedora Amos. I write Victorian whodunits like Jack the Ripper in St. Louis. And more recently, my 2016, which is Mayhem at Buffalo Bill's Wild West. And I am also Vice President of Greater St. Louis Sisters in Crime.
and when is your talk at Missouri Romance Writers about poisons? And all
Well, that is going to be the 15th of October, so
Oops.
probably
Oh,
it's already
okay.
over.
that? Yeah, we've already been over. Sorry, I thought that was coming in November. I don't know why. Sorry. So if you didn't attend, you missed it. And also with us today, returning,
I am Dante Carlisle, author of Hiding Blind and Regret Nothing, which was just released last month. I write criminal fiction. That is what I do.
Where can we find your
Oh,
book
you
that
can
was released
find
last month?
find all of these on Amazon, CreateSpace. There are multiple distribution outlets, but the easiest one is Amazon for now with the ebooks, and the print edition will be available on Amazon here shortly.
Hooray!
Hooray!
Hooray for releasing things.
and also with me today is.
I'm Melanie Lucas.
Change our name, only socially. We just got though we're kind of recording in the past and projecting to the future. When this airs, it would have been yesterday that we walked down the aisle. So
Hooray!
We're actually probably walking down the aisle again right now.
yes, actually, we are holding a. For those who don't know, this is just personal stuff, but I'm among friends among you. Everyone here knows my mom has dementia. She's a wow. He caught up there. She's in a nursing home. There's no way I can have her at the real event, so we're having a mock ceremony the day this is airing to have her included. And you write.
Oh. Let's see. Can I remember what I write? Let's see. I write a lot of nonfiction stuff that actually never gets published. Regulatory stuff, and I also write. And I do write some nonfiction stuff that gets published.
Under what name?
Under Melanie Kulani, and science fiction and fantasy.
She's going to be confused for quite a while.
Yes.
Brad R. Cook. I am the author of the Iron Chronicles, which is Iron Horseman, Iron Zulu, and as of the end of November, Iron Lotus. Do check it out. Come check out November 26th, the release party which is going to be at Main Street Books on Small Business Saturday. So come out, support a small business. And it is the start of Christmas traditions. So all of Main Street is traveling back to the 1800s, and it's perfect for a steampunk novel like mine. And then you can also check out some fun stuff like my short stories, which there might be more than one of by this area. Yes, I do have a sword with me. It was practicing for David's wedding, and fun stuff like that. So yes, I am currently sitting with a blade. And hey, shout out to the guys who stopped by my booth at Archon and our listeners to the show.
Yes. And also with us,
I am George Soroy. I'm the Vice President of the Missouri Writers Guild. I will also be at the St. Louis Central Library. Only mine is at Saturday, November 5th.
Nice.
From 2 through 5. I will be speaking with Debbie Manber-Kupfer on audiobooks.
Oh, cool.
I write science fiction for the young adult reader. Both of my books are available on Amazon. Excelsior is available on paperback, ebook, and audiobook. And From Parts Unknown, my complete 5-part serial is available as an ebook only. And hopefully by this recording, I will have finally finished Ever Upward Part 2 of the Excelsior Journey. More details on that to come.
Excellent. Also, too, I do want to do a quick shout out. We are now recording after Archon. We already said we were at Archon. It was a great job, great thing, but that was recorded before we actually went. I do want to do a great shout out to the people who ran Archon. Thank you for allowing St. Louis Writers Guild to come, which means also allowing, since most of us in this room are also members of St. Louis Writers Guild, not only members of the Right Pack. The Right Pack basically invaded Archon, and we were very honored to be there. Thank you for everything. So, to begin today, we are going to talk about brainstorming. And since this is before Halloween, brains, need me brains! No, sorry, I just had to get that out. Do the zombie apocalypse
Oh gosh,
for brainstorming.
I feel so uncomfortable.
This is your fault because of Sharknado and you doing that voice. Now I'm picturing like a storm of brains.
You're welcome, write the story.
No.
All voiced by Peter Lorre. So,
Hey, wait, I can
Going
voice
inside.
it.
Going inside, except when I
Better
need an
choice
idea.
since he's dead.
Yes, well.
Coming soon to Sci-Fi Channel, yes.
Yes.
Brainstorm!
So wait.
Brains.
So
Hey, like this idea!
No, wait,
No,
wait,
I'm
wait.
not going to turn that into a radio play.
No, there is a new novel coming out by Elaine Feats called Brainstorm.
goodness.
Yes,
So is
you're
that
right.
what we're talking
Is it a
about today?
zombocalypse?
No, we're talking
it
about
has no
brainstorming.
zombies.
So explain brainstorming then, because I don't think it's literally a storm of brains.
No, there's no
That's brain
there's no
data.
lightning and thunder and raining of brains across wherever you're at. What brainstorming is, anybody?
Thinking a bunch?
Coming up with as many ideas in as short a time as possible.
Considering all possibilities.
Using that lump 3 feet above your ass?
Some of us are shorter.
consulting with the 3 feet above someone else's ass as well.
There you go.
Yes.
There we go.
Brainstorming off each other is always a fun thing to do, which we actually do often when we're writing at our Right Pack table.
Yes.
For an author, and to be serious, I think it's actually, considering all things, coming up with ideas that you probably won't use, and allowing yourself to have that kind of creative freedom to just explore the world, the story, the characters, and all that kind of fun stuff, the plots, that you have. Because, what you end up reading is probably an amalgam of 1,000 things that popped into our brains late one night.
One thing too, brainstorming is also useful for, and I'm going to go ahead and do a shout out on this. One of the things that you should be reading by now on the Writer's Lens is a blog which I'm starting. Point blank, I've had to take a hiatus for a while, and I've been struggling getting other stories done as I come off of it. So I said, you know what? I'm in the stale zone. So I am literally going through a list of questions. This is going to be 130 some odd questions, so 130 some odd weeks. But sitting there and talking to myself about why am I writing? What do I love about writing? What do I hate about writing? And it's going to be brainstorming. So brainstorming is helping me reconnect with my love and passion.
I think Dave has a really good point there, that the place to go very first in brainstorming is to your core story, who you are, what intrigues you, what you want to write about, and to find out more about yourself by asking yourself questions and trying to figure out just what it is that I am trying to tell the world. Who am I and what am I trying to tell the world? That, I think, is the very first step in brainstorming, is to figure out who you are. So ask yourself all kinds of questions about what you want other people to know about you and what you want to read and how you can get other people to understand the points you're trying to make.
Oh, I was going to follow up on that with I love that idea. That's one of the things that I did wrong probably in the first 3 actual full-length stories that I did was I had no idea what I was trying to say with the story. I just wrote 300 pages and then looked at it at the end and said, I'm not sure what any of this means.
A lot of people do that.
So I wanted to point out that brainstorming isn't something that only is useful to writers. There are plenty of different avenues and arenas in which you brainstorm. It's basically you ask a question and then you give as many different answers to that question as you can possibly think of. And people brainstorm in groups. Barbara Luther has these idea parties where people brainstorm how to get things that they want in life. Writers will brainstorm as a group. How do I kill off this character who has these superpowers when I only have these superheroes with these superpowers? Great conversation, by the way. Great conversation to throw at a group of writers.
Hollywood needs to do that a little bit more.
Hollywood needs to have a lot more brainstorming and not, outright copying going on.
You can't kill the superheroes. The superheroes have 3 spin-off movies that they have to be in.
Should not
Was
leave.
that Marvel or DC?
That's what the
We'll get to that next week.
But back to brainstorming, though.
Yeah, sorry.
There are plenty of things that can be solved by brainstorming, like plot issues, character issues, and whether you're brainstorming with a group or by yourself, I think it starts with asking that question and then trying to think of as many different answers as you can, no matter how bad they are. As Brad pointed out, they can be terrible. But if you give the terrible things as well as the completely glorious things freedom to come out, you'll come out with something better in the end than you would have if you were stifling that part of yourself.
And you get direction.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Speaking of ideas that are terrible, one of the real great positive things that you can do when you're doing a brainstorm session is to basically declare wherever you are, wherever you are doing the brainstorming. Basically, just like declare it a safe haven for any ideas to go out. Do not be afraid to bounce as many different ideas as possible. One of the great documentaries I would recommend to anyone is on the 15th season DVD for South Park called 6 Days to Air. And it's where they basically talk about the development of an episode from conception all the way to delivering the final produced episode. And it takes literally 6 days.
Yep.
And one of the great moments is right at the very beginning when you can see in the writer's room Trey Parker, Matt Stone, and all the guys, everything that are sitting there just bouncing ideas off of each other. And there's talk about how great of an area that is because they're not shooting down every bad idea. They're saying that, like, okay, well, there's this, but then you can also go ahead and do this, and then this, and this, and then all of a sudden you have something.
That's on
Exactly.
YouTube, by the way. You don't
Great.
have to buy the 5th season, 15th season, whichever season you said it was on.
15th season, yeah.
The 15th season of
If it's
South
there,
Park to see
fantastic.
that.
Highly recommended. Definitely see it.
And one of the things too, and we're kind of hinting at this, is it helps you face the blank page. You've got an idea what you're going to talk about before you start writing it. I want to talk briefly back to the birth of the Write Pack. I'm looking at Kathleen and looking at Jen because they were both there. Wired Coffee was still around.
Oh, long ago.
This
I
is
heard,
going back.
I've heard
I
wonderful
missed their
stories about that
coffee.
place.
They
I missed that place.
They were amazing.
They had a room, and we were occupying that room, and I was hitting my head trying to get this mystery figured out.
Let's
I
mention that
brainstormed.
this room had a floor-to-ceiling chalkboard.
That's
in
what
it.
I'm going.
Yes.
This thing
One
had
wall
a
was
floor,
chalkboard wall.
the
Yes.
ceiling,
Wonderful thing.
chalkboard, and I took to that chalkboard, brainstormed how characters and the murderer and et cetera. And it was funny when the barista would come in to deliver coffee or whatever to one of us, and she stopped and just looked, made the face with Kodak moment, and walked out. So yes,
Planning murders. In
planning
public
murders and
spaces.
getting away with them. Thank goodness it's only on paper.
So we say.
So where do you guys like to use your? Well, first off, let's talk about. You got something, so go for it instead.
So, for people who have never brainstormed, we've been talking about kind of what it is and touching on how to do it, but how do you go about doing a brainstorm session?
Brad.
Well, I was going to say, so I start off, I have to brainstorm by myself when I'm writing, brainstorm with other people for other stuff. When I'm writing, I tend to brainstorm by myself, and for me, it's a giant page of notes. It's on my computer, and I will literally just note take for days on different story ideas. This might be cool to have happen. This is what I want to have happen. And each one's a separate line item, so it looks like just a line and then a space and then a line and then a space. And that allows me to just kind of generate out of that will come an outline, will come my plot, will come my characters, and I keep that document. And as I write and as I go through the process of creating, I will always come back to those notes to see, is there some cool idea that I haven't put in that I had a brainstorm on. But for me, it's a way of kind of like figuring out everything that I'd like to have happen, I want to have happen, and just go from there.
Jen,
In the military, to punish people, they say, hit the floor and give me 20.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have a brainstorm method that's not quite that severe or painful, and it's also give me 20. If I come to a place, and you know that I don't believe in writer's block, and this is why. Because if I come to a place where I don't really know what's going to happen next, I give myself 20. I write down 20 things, however absurd, however peculiar they might be. And in there somewhere is something that I can use. And I got this idea from Elmore Leonard. Because he said when he had writer's block, what he did was have two gunmen bust down the door and come in blazing away. And so I put that at the top of my give me 20. Because I'm not going to use that, but that is where my mind can go.
I'm going to quickly dovetailing. I've been taking a master class online from James Patterson, and he actually does. He doesn't do a give me 20. He doesn't even say the number, but that's exactly what he does. At the end of each of his chapters, he goes, "Okay, where are all the different places this can go?" He brainstorms it through, just like what you're kind of sort of doing. Go ahead, and then you got it.
Just to clarify, so is it 20 things that could happen right at the point where you're temporarily stopped up, or is it like 20 things that could happen in the whole story?
It depends on what I'm looking to do.
Yeah.
If I have no idea where the story's going, I probably will just go in the other room and have breakfast. Because, that's just craziness. But if I don't know what the next scene is, give me 20 will get me there.
All right.
I brainstorm best when I'm talking. Not that anyone in this room would think that maybe talking is a way that I work through most thoughts. But I do talk a lot, and I receive a lot from the input of the person I'm bouncing off of. If they seem interested in the concept that I'm pursuing, or if an idea that I promote, that I suggest, leads them to ask another question or something like that. So speaking to other people is a really effective brainstorm method for me. But, you don't always have other people with you. So when I'm alone and when I'm left to brainstorm, I start free writing. And I just have a conversation with myself that way, and ask myself the questions and look at things based on everything I know in the story. I've mentioned before I like making T columns, a plus or minus. So I ask myself, should I have the front door to this building locked or open? And then I write down, well, if it's locked, then how do we get in? Does that lead us to something? Is all of that fluff that has nothing to do with anything, and should I just make it open to save time? Is the tension important in this scene to have it locked and have them have to break the lock? Or is there no difference either way, and I'm just wasting everybody's page space by adding this extra bit? And by the time I'm done with the column, it's not always the one that has the most stuff in it, but I've talked myself into one way or the other in my problem just by listing the pros and cons of each decision. So that's one way. Free writing, sometimes yelling at myself, sometimes swearing about things, Sometimes all caps and underlines and writing in colors. Just anything to make it feel like an organic, conversational kind of moment usually helps get my bubbles going.
Do you brainstorm first, though, before you do any criticism?
Well, I'm stuck to brainstorming when I've hit a wall. When I've not hit writer's block, since you don't believe writer's block.
I don't. I believe in laziness. I don't believe in
No,
laziness.
if I'm having trouble and stuff isn't happening just sort of by intuition, that's when I stop and do brainstorming. And if I'm doing a full plot thing, my full plot falls into place because I have a lot of things that I know I want. A good example would be the ghost story that I'm still writing. I'm working on fantasy story at the moment. The ghost story's on the side. I knew before I started writing this who my two main characters were, what my theme or a collection of themes were, how it was going to end, and the black moment or 2 or 3 in the middle. It's like I knew I wanted them to have a scene where they try and escape the house. I knew I wanted to have a scene where they're confronting a psychic medium who's supposed to be coming in and scouting them out, and that the psychic medium is just completely full of crap and guesses nothing, and watching these two ghosts react to that is something I really wanted to put in there. So I can take that collection of stuff and lay it all out on a timeline and say, when could all of these things happen that I can accomplish all these things in the most logical order? And what do they learn from each thing? And that's how kind of the story happens. But if I hit a wall and I'm like, well, I really want there to be a bunch of hippies in the greenhouse, does that fit in or not? And then I can make a T-graph. This is real. There may or may not be hippies in the greenhouse in this story.
We'll find out.
I want you to say that sentence just randomly from now on.
I don't want hippies in the greenhouse.
There might be hippies in the greenhouse. I don't know. Some people juggle geese.
You can add that too.
All right.
From now on, that's gonna be a quote.
Yes.
Dante.
She literally just stole like all 3 of the points that I was about to make.
Sorry.
The free writing.
You have
I
hippies
love
in the
the
greenhouse
free
too?
writing. No,
He juggles
I
geese.
actually had hippies juggling geese outside of the greenhouse. No, the free writing is one of mine that I always did if I couldn't find my previous ideas. I'm very bad about scheduled, like I'm going to sit down and I'm going to come up with an idea. I tend to just randomly have ideas at 4 a.m. or 6 p.m. or whenever I happen to have them. I'm normally doing something that I shouldn't be doing. And
Juggling
I
geese
just
again.
write, yes, I'm juggling geese in the greenhouse. It's
Hippie.
yes.
One thing to add on to what Jen was talking about before, how you like to discuss ideas with someone else. Always a great thing because you always need to have that other perspective on things. They're always going to find something that you didn't. But one thing to keep in mind if you are going to brainstorm with someone, make sure that they know that you're going to spoil the hell out of what you're in the process of writing.
Yeah.
They may not want to brainstorm with you because they may want to find out what happens in the finished form. They may want to be a beta reader, or they may want to, actually just read it from cover to cover, or on their Kindle or whatever when it's all finished. So just make sure that that they are aware that they're going to be spoiled on quite a bit.
Also, a good reason not to brainstorm with Twitter.
Yes. Yes.
Don't brainstorm with your fans.
No.
No.
Accept ideas, maybe. Good point.
Yeah, it depends on how you brainstorm. It's like, what should my next project be? If you're brainstorming that, go to your fans.
Well, Butcher did that. Jim Butcher did that.
Yeah.
Well, it was more of a bet.
It was a bet. And he ended up having an entire series from it. So it does work.
Best-selling series, too.
No, go ahead, Kathleen.
To go into what Jen and Dante were saying, I also am a huge free writer. I don't just free write to brainstorm. I free write to kind of figure out where I am at a given point in time. But I found that for me, I don't usually do well speaking out loud, brainstorming with other people. I kind of try and keep everything close to my chest, and I only brainstorming through free write would be my first go-to. I have colored fountain pens, and I love them dearly, so I have an excuse to use them when I get stuck on anything, so I do. And it'll usually come out kind of like a conversation with myself, and I'll go, ooh, if this happens, then this can happen, and that's why this, and that's why this. So it's a fun journey of discovery for me, and it doesn't require another person. When it does get to the point where I need another person, I've called Jen before because Jen needs to go to Hollywood and fix all the plots.
It's all about asking the right questions.
And Jen very much asks the right questions. Usually, like when I'm by myself, I can do that, but for some things, you really do need another person. So that's when I find bringing a second person or, you know, a small group of people that are okay being spoiled into the equation.
Two things real fast I'm going to add. One, remember, when you're brainstorming, everything is good. Just go with it. Don't stop yourself. And if it's going to be something that you end up doing right into your story, there is such a thing called editing. If it turns out it's a bad idea, edit it later. Go ahead and get it down now. And Jen, one of the things you were talking about, and Kathleen, a little bit of you, is something in which author David Morrell, I'm mispronouncing him, and I'm sorry, David, I know you get told this all the time when people ask you what you wrote, and you mention a whole bunch of titles, and they're like, huh? And you say Rambo, and everyone else goes, oh, I know that story. What he does is he sits down with his computer, or he sits down with his, I think he sits down with his computer, but he has a conversation back and forth, so that's just completely normal. Normal method of doing a brainstorming until you get ready to write.
It's a great way to answer questions. Look at the dialogues of the ancient times when the thinkers just wrote conversations between two fictional people.
Access your inner schizophrenic.
Yeah.
Really have fun.
You know we all are. We have people in our heads all the time.
Yeah,
So you know you're a writer.
Yeah, we don't have people trapped inside of us. We have entire universes.
Exactly. One of the things I was going to mention that we've touched on, but I think needs to be made clear, is that there is no set time to brainstorm. I'll sit down and brainstorm, but that might be a chunk of an afternoon. But it's also going to come when I'm driving the car, when I'm standing in the shower, when I'm up at 3 in the morning, when I'm playing a video game or any kind of numerous other activities. I'm going to be thinking of, in my subconscious is going to be brainstorming ideas and thinking of stories. And I think that's one of the reasons you're a writer, is that you think about writing like pretty much all day long. So they can come at any time. I think the important part is to write them down, or at least to save them in some sort of memory storage function kind of thing, so that you can call upon them later, you have them later. But for me, when I brainstorm that document that stays open, that'll stay open on my computer for days practically. And it's in my recents, so I'll just click on it when I get in my computer and open it up, because I might be working on something else and I have a thought and I'll write that down. So I don't think brainstorming they can be limited. If you want to take 20 minutes to brainstorm, awesome. If you want to take a week to brainstorm, go for it.
You reminded me of something else that I do when I'm brainstorming that I'd completely forgotten about because it had nothing to do with pins. So, of course, it was irrelevant. I am one of those drivers that, has been saved by a smartphone, and I feel like everyone on the road is safer because I cannot stop and write something down the way I would have before I had a smartphone with a voice memo function. So I will brainstorm during drives, just hit voice memo and just go. It's like verbal free writing, and everyone is safer because I am focused on the road, but also blathering out of my mouth and not writing on a pad.
Not writing and driving.
Yes. Although I do have a pad that I keep that's pocket size that I keep in my pocket that I can just, write ideas down on the fly. That's fun.
I'm plot doctored at stoplights.
No. I have voice memo for red lights now. Voice memo whenever I'm in the car now.
Nice.
And I know two other authors who do that, and I used to do a tape recorders or a digital recorder.
I'm actually a huge fan of long trips for that.
Yeah.
Like when I'm in a 13-hour drive, 11 of those are probably going to be spent thinking of stories and plotting. And when I come home, I'll probably have what I'm working on. There'll be a lot there, and then I'll probably have something new, like a short story or a new novel, also.
Absolute hours of stuff that at the end of it, it's I'm probably never going to listen to all, which is kind of what I was going to go on yours, was you were talking about saving the things that you've brainstormed over time. Was I find notebooks that I've written book ideas and story ideas in from years ago. Oh man, I need to do that. And it'll turn into a short story or something, and that's kind of how I choose whatever project I'll work on next. Once I finish one project or another, I'm like, oh, I need to do this one. Or my girlfriend tends to yell at me often. She's like, you need to write this one. I'm like,
You have a built-in project selector. This is awesome.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my goodness. No, I flip. Okay, anyway. Anyway, speaking of organizing ideas and whatnot, I have Evernote. So,
I use it too.
programs like that, I have a Scrivener file with a bunch of ideas. I have so much stuff that is written down in places I will probably never find them again.
Yes. This
You
is
will
why I
find
like
them again at the
computers.
right time.
The joy of being a writer, though, is that it's okay because you've got 50 bajillion other ones that are clamoring for your attention.
Yes.
Because you will start seeing ideas everywhere the more into brainstorming you get.
But this is why I love computers, because computers, it's all in one place. Since
And your
it's in a-
computer will find it for you if you can get a
Yes.
keyword.
Well, it's in a file called drawer.
I have a junk drawer file.
You know, and I will jump into that, and that's where I keep all my story ideas. And then I pluck them out and I put them in a new file, and that's where I start writing.
Your idea files.
Yeah, exactly.
Idea files.
Yeah, I currently
I have
have a
them,
notebook
yeah.
with the first draft in it, and I can't find that notebook. If it was on the computer, I know where it
This is
was.
why I digitized years ago.
Until your hard drive fails, as mine did.
Backups.
Which you back up.
Oh,
I have
Yes,
four
yes,
backups of my
backups.
writing.
Backups, cloud, everything.
Yeah, backups and on clouds.
Email. Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
I have 4 backups of my writing simply because
Almost
of
And
as
also-
most of you in this room know.
Be
I have to have
terrified.
that, because how many problems do
Be
I have
terrified.
with computers?
And
Yeah.
speaking of backups and technology moves forward, and our computers do not always move forward with it.
True.
And sometimes it is good to have a friend named Jennifer who can transfer the file type that you can no longer open on your computer, so you can
Yes.
see all the
That's why I
things
love
you
Linux.
had
Just
written years ago.
Which is an important thing to note. This isn't about brainstorming, but your treasured things, your treasured files that you love, open them up and save them every so often.
Yes. And print them out. I printed out all my works. Anyone who remembers Microsoft Works out there.
Oh my.
Those are the
Oh,
file
yes.
types in
Yeah,
question.
you can't
Wow.
even get anything to open Works anymore.
I can give you a program.
Yes.
Well, the point is, those aren't even on a medium that I can plug into a computer.
Oh, there's
anymore.
zip files. Zip
Actually,
disks,
some of them
right?
are probably on discs.
Mhm.
Ouch. Yeah.
The
But
floppies
anyway.
that actually flop.
Yeah. Well, no, not that bad.
Not
Not
that bad. Like
Not-
Word
yeah,
processor
we're talking
is
3.5.
inaccessible now.
Not the
The
5 and
hard
quarter, yeah.
disc, as they became known. But by printing them out, I have a file of them, and I can still revert back to them. And I have some short stories that I still want to publish that I wrote in Works that I have to now type back.
You can get
into
someone to
Word.
scan in and.
No,
No, I don't have
you
the
have to find a
files.
good
Like
one.
the files are
No,
now on
no,
3
no,
computers.
the
you can
text.
scan
Yeah.
the text.
Yeah,
The
like
text
there's
recognition's
software
even
that
better.
reads printed text and can transcribe it
Yeah,
for you.
I'm gonna
on the
rewrite it
file.
because that's old writing. It needs to be rewritten back.
Yeah.
I get killed every
I'm
time.
gonna go to George who's been patiently
Yes.
waiting, but I'm gonna say this: thank
Not
you for
quite
the
what it
trip
needs
down
to be
memory lane.
I know.
With computers.
And that's what I'm doing right now. I have a 300-page novel that I'm transcribing from paper to laptop. It's
Yes.
Oh gosh.
One thing to just kind of get back on the brainstorming. The one thing to really keep in mind is that brainstorming can really happen at any given moment, especially if and some of the best ones are moments that really kind of catch you by surprise. One of my favorite brainstorming moments was actually a little over 5 years ago when I was down to my last few months living in New York City before my wife and I moved here to St. Louis. I was speaking with a colleague of mine at the top of the Rock observation deck at Rockefeller Center, and I was telling her that I wanted a scene in the sequel that I was working on at that point I was outlining. Right now it's almost finished, so you can see just how long of a process it's been for me. And I said that I really wanted to have a fight scene take place on the 70th floor at Rockefeller Center because I knew just how great that would look because I've been up there for so often. The main problem that I had, and this was the part that I brainstormed with, was basically just saying that how am I going to get Excelsior Sword through security? Because that's always something. I really wanted to make sure that part was addressed because I've gone through that so many times. And immediately she said it could be an event. Because we had events up there all the time that would go through a different elevator bank and therefore would not be going through security. As soon as she said that opened up the floodgates for me, and all of a sudden I knew exactly how that particular fight scene would play out and the reasons why it played out. All of a sudden, it became just so much of a wonderful, richer scene just because of that one throwaway suggestion that one person had.
And this is why we brainstorm.
Yes.
This is, and it's going back to staying on brainstorming, but George, you just took me down a different memory lane. Be careful of where you brainstorm, especially if you do it verbally. Because I was writing a crime story. This is, very long time ago. I don't even think about how long ago, and I'm thinking about how a cat burglar can break into the St. Louis Art Museum and steal something off of one of the pedestals that, of course, is covered in plastic that's not shatterable. And I'm walking around with a tape recorder, and I'm thinking I'm talking low enough that it's just me talking to a tape recorder. About 15, 20 minutes later, I notice that security is following me from a very respectable but yet obvious distance. And I'm like,
Great.
oh, shoot. That's actually not the words I use. So, to those who still work security at the St. Louis Art Museum from that time period, I still say sorry and thank you for not arresting me.
But good job for keeping an ear out, though.
Yeah,
You know, that's,
seriously. And
You should have
actually-
stopped and asked them. They probably have some great theories for you on how
Oh.
you could break in.
Yeah, I should have had a conversation in the security office.
But then you could see in the security office.
hey, this
You
is
gotta
true.
plan these crimes better. Why brainstorm?
And to be honest with you, this is where I want to go next. Is brainstorming not only works on coming up with the idea, brainstorming works on trying to identify what research you need to write the story. I might want to write a story about a cat burglar breaking into the St. Louis Art Museum and stealing some artifact that is made out of gold and silver and platinum and other lovely stuff. And what research do I need? I mean, let's say I don't live in St. Louis, but I'm writing it there.
My latest story was about 4 cat burglars.
There you go. There you go.
That was fun.
Well, I think we're all kind of walking around a very important aspect, or something that can be done with brainstorming anyway, and that is the interview with an expert.
Yes.
Because their brains are better than yours, let's face it, especially if you just don't basically have the information you need to find out what a doctor does in Kenya. For goodness sake, you probably don't have it. But if you talk to one of the doctors who was in Kenya and knows about it, they're generally very helpful, very glad to talk to you about it, and can tell you such wonderful, wonderful things. And I pump them. When I find one, I pump them mercilessly about it. For my poison talk that I'm giving next week, for example, I talked to a nurse and doctor couple that were in Kenya with the Doctors with No Borders, and one of his patients was bitten by a puff adder. How often do you get to hear about an African puff adder, for goodness sake? And what happened? This poor guy had his hand bit by it, and that puff adder venom starts to turn the hand into food, so that he, even though he got to the hospital fast enough for the antivenin to work, he still lost half his hand and was in the hospital for 3 weeks. Isn't that wonderful stuff to know about poisons? Oh, I love it.
And what's funny, I'm sitting here, and my dear friend Brian, who is a cop and SWAT, and I'm not going to mention his city because I don't want to connect it, who is my go-to resource a lot for cop stuff and this, and his wife is an emergency room physician. She thinks I'm rather shady because of the questions I come up with. So, just want to put it out there.
Wait, no,
Sometimes
I
the
want
people
an
you talk
example
to.
now.
Huh?
I want an example now. An ER nurse thinks you're shady? What'd you
ER
ask?
doctor.
ER doctor thinks you're shady? Even better.
Yeah.
What did you ask?
I don't even remember. It's been various questions over
Okay,
the years.
various
over a
questions
while.
about body disposal and about.
I don't think I did that one.
No, but you might have asked on my behalf. I actually misunderstood one of my questions.
Oh,
but-
yes, that's right. I do
DNA.
remember that.
Yeah.
A DNA. Way poisons worked, I know was one of them. What would happen if you stab somebody at a certain location on the body? How long would they have? Or as, by the way, this can happen when you're writing. You suddenly kill a character, or you think you may have just killed a character while you're writing. And, for example, I had a fight scene going on in a science fiction story, and the character got eviscerated. And I immediately stopped, looked at it, contacted Brian, contacted a friend of mine who's a EMT, got back the same answers from both, and it's like, yep, I killed the character. They've got about another 5 minutes to live. That's about it. So, yeah. I don't know what questions I've asked him to ask her.
That's one of them.
You know what makes me happy though?
Yes, that would have been one of them.
You are such a writer, and you have asked so many questions that are probably really shady that you can't think of any that stick out.
Yeah,
Dear
So
NSA, just let you know, no, and FBI, no, my browser history is not meaning I'm a terrorist. It means I'm a writer. Trust me.
I firmly believe that, when the FBI takes a look at us, our browser history or something like that, they then jump over to Amazon to see if this person's a writer.
Yeah.
And they decide whether or not they're going to investigate.
Yes.
Poisoned
Yes.
for the last week.
So, do any of you guys use brainstorming to figure out what you're going to write next? Like, maybe you have projects in mind, but you're not sure, or you don't?
That's what
Might
I'm
have
doing
just
right
done
now.
that last night.
Okay.
5 hands shot up, you guys.
I don't know who was first. I know all four of us shot our hands up. Okay, one of the things I was talking about earlier is I'm literally taking everything I've done and throwing it in the dustbin. And going back to and reconnecting my writer stuff. I mean, Sentinel Fleet, toss that out. The various mysteries, toss that out. I'm sorry, I know I'm causing Jennifer here to cry because she's drawn plenty of works for me.
Hey, you paid me.
I know, and I've been letting myself brainstorm about an idea. And it's evolved past this, so what I'm going to tell you, it doesn't even exist anymore. But it was basically Henry II, Richard I, King John, or who would become King John, Catherine of Aquitaine, and Robin Hood, with the idea concept of if you saw Smallville, the relationship between Lex and Clark Kent, how that was evolving, and putting this together. And now I've gone, okay, you know what? I really get this other idea with this Robin Hood character. And by the way, this is going to be science fiction. And it's still going to be science fiction. And I've evolved it elsewhere. And I'm not sure where it's going yet. So I am currently doing exactly that.
So you are finding your core story.
I'm finding my core story.
All right.
I'm not sure.
I was gonna say I have a bad habit. Like I said, I tend to write stuff down in every single place that I can find. I've got about a stack of 30 notebooks that every once in a while I'll look through. And when I'm really looking for a new project, I tend to just fall back on the flip a coin method. I will get a list of about 30 of them and then say, all right, well, this one looks fun, this one looks fun. I really like to do this, and I kind of narrow it down, and eventually I get down to 2, 4, 5, something like that, and I'll start flipping coins.
That's called rolling dice.
Yes, I
Yes.
was like, I would get
Rolling
like a
D&D
D,
dice.
however many I needed.
Oh,
just like
I've got them all sitting there. It tends to come down to that sometimes.
I wouldn't be able to narrow it that much. Be like D10 go.
Yeah, so I actually just did this. I am going to be publishing some short stories. I have a bunch. Most of them need to be cleaned up or finished. And so I went through and I was brainstorming about the ones that I wanted to work on. And then whichever one gets the most ideas, I know that's the one that I'm flowing on. So instantly there were 2 that I most definitely wanted to finish. They were the ones I most definitely had a lot of ideas for. And so those are the 2 that I started working on. And then because it was late and I didn't want to actually start writing, I ended up creating book covers for them. So that, a little motivation, a little visual aid right there.
That's why I love Jennifer.
Yeah, so, and then now I've got the covers for them, and I actually did 3 covers for one because I couldn't decide on a title, so I was like, which one looks better? And yeah, just went that way, and I'll start writing them on, tomorrow, get them all cleaned up and ready to go, and they'll be ready to be published probably within a couple weeks.
Beautiful.
So yeah, it's, I basically, whatever gets the most ideas is where I go, and we'll start working.
My most recent brainstorming really was with my editor for this Excelsior trilogy. She was incredibly active during the editing part of the first one when I handed her the first draft thinking that, this is just going to need a little bit of cleaning up and then it's going to be ready to go. No. That was not the case. She read the first chapter and said, this is going to take a lot of work. We were working for almost 2 years before it was finally finished and ready to go out into the world. And she was very instrumental in us basically just like figuring out more of the world building that was necessary for the second one. And because of that, we started thinking about what to do right after this one is done, because I didn't want to jump into part 3 right away. She basically just kind of put it in mind, it's like, well, why don't we put together some shorter stories in the same vein as Star Wars Rogue One, like where, just little smaller stories that fill the gaps in the mythology. And so that was born from a brainstorming session. So the two of us were really positive on that. So
Good show, by the way.
Well, I'm jealous of all you guys with all of your, so many ideas, so many plots waiting that I have to flip a coin or roll a die to get to. I take an extremely long time to write anything, mostly because I don't get small ideas. I get novel-length ideas.
Same here.
And usually by the time I am done with one big project, the other one has been aching in me to get started for so long. It's not really so much a question of what do you do. It's a lot more of finally I get to start working on this one, or let me take a month off and then I'll start working on this one. So how do you brainstorm a new project? Mostly it's how you go about not picking my project. It's about where I'm starting it and how it's going to start going. And the ghost story I mentioned earlier, I started it many times just figuring out what the point of view was, what the writing style was like, what place in history it was taking place in. And that's more of where my brainstorming session for a new project kind of goes. That and lots of concept art.
Yeah, she has her own
You
concept
have that
artist
ability. I'm
herself.
so jealous of that.
Me too.
I actually know my next novels.
Mm-hmm.
So my novel length stuff I always know, because there's always thought, work, research that goes into that. But I've been brainstorming what will be my next novel, because I can't decide if I want to do it as an adult novel or a middle grade. And I went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and no, it's not the exact same story. That would be weird.
Yeah, it's a big
But
deal.
it's the same concept, and I would literally be writing the same book if I wrote both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So you're
wanna
writing
do that.
young adult, okay?
No, because you
Oh.
can't do that. One is obviously a kid's story, and the other one would obviously be an adult story, but they share themes. It's the exact same theme. So what I did was I brainstormed out both plots and the story ideas for both to try and see which one had more, to try and figure out which one I'm doing. I still don't know yet. This is why I'm dealing with all the short stories right now.
Well, you got to write them both and have one be Monopoly and one be Monopoly Junior.
Yeah, I really don't want to do that. So I'm trying to focus on which one I'm going to write.
You maybe should do a T pros and cons.
I've already
set-
written.
I'm sure he's
I've
got-
done that.
I'm sure he's
I've
got
written
T's
the
from
first
both
chapter of
sides.
each one.
Huh.
The one has 2 chapters. The other one has like a chapter and a half. They both have full outlines with fully flushed out stories and characters. I was really trying to figure out which one had more, and they don't.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Which one has more fun? Which one are
See,
you having more fun
Here's the
thinking
thing:
about?
the kid's story is like fun and kind of enjoyable and all that kind of stuff, and the adult one I get to like really freak people out with. So
you have
it's,
fun
it's
there.
this toss-up.
What does the bird living in the cage of your chest say
See, I
about
don't
which
know.
one you like?
That's my problem.
It's the joy of
It wants to
having a
write
career.
them. It loves both of them.
Didn't she just say that though?
What?
She literally said write
Yeah.
both of them, and you're
Yeah.
like, no.
No,
my
I
heart
don't
wants
want to write both of them.
Why not?
My heart's going. I don't know which one to choose. It's up to you.
but you
And
can
my
only
head's
choose
like,
one.
I don't know. But I really don't want to write both of them because that's like many, many moons of my life dedicated to 2 books that,
That have the same
marketing wise, do not flush together.
Well, which is going to sell better? Come on, get down to
Okay.
the
I
basics.
don't know that one either. So my
Okay.
problem is I'm a kid's writer on most of the sides, but I think the adult one would go. It's hard to say.
Okay.
Go ahead. So that I've got a question
Yeah.
for everybody after this. Go ahead.
But this has been 3+ months of brainstorming.
So
Move editing
speaking
in
of
there, too.
themes, I actually wanted to address brainstorming as relates to themes and things that are close to our hearts. I think all writers, all people, really have issues or things that they're kind of sorting out over many, many works and things that they continually return to in their works. Like, I've got a friend, Jamie Goff, who always goes back to disappointing children, and they're great. Her stories are great, but like it's a theme that keeps cropping up. And for me, like, love conquering is definitely a theme that comes up in my work. Like, I think that is amazing. And brainstorming to figure out what kind of things are important to you, like, can be really helpful. Julia Cameron has an exercise in The Right to Write that kind of helps do that. It basically says list like 5 movies, 5 stories, 5 books, things that 5 of your favorite of these things, and you can list the 5 that are top of your head first. It doesn't have to be favorites because I have no idea how to pick favorites of anything. But you go through those lists of these things that you love, and you find the common themes in them, and those are things that probably you care a lot about, whether you recognize it consciously or not. So, Brad, when you were saying that they both explore the same themes, I was like, so? Because I explore a lot of the same themes. They're not the same stories at all.
Yeah,
so.
it literally comes down to which one do I want to dedicate the next couple of months to and writing it down. And that's where it comes from. So, yeah, even though they share the same themes and they have similar story veins, you know, the one is obviously for adults and the other one is obviously for children. It really has come down to trying to figure out, you know, I'm going to dedicate the next chunk of my life to writing this book. And which one of those do I want to put my heart into and finish? Because I don't know if I'd finish both of them. Eventually, maybe.
Well, the kids' book, page-wise, is going to be shorter.
It would
So
be.
then you can start the adult book and work on that one.
So yeah, I've been going back and forth for several months, and as soon as I finish these short stories, I'll come back to it and see which one.
I say start one, work on one as far as you can, and use it as your rough draft. If you're
See,
like
I
most
started
of the way
doing
through,
that. I thought the middle grade was the one I was going to go with.
and you
And
and
I
you pulled out
worked
of the
on it,
middle
and
grade.
that's the one that's got a couple of chapters in it and stuff like that. And then I was like, well, I don't know. Let's go back and check out the adult.
I would like
Very
to point
wishy-washy.
out that we're all trying to brainstorm for Brad which book he should be
Yes.
writing.
Yes.
It's a perfect example of how it
A
can
live
work.
example of brainstorming.
And to further prove that Brad doesn't like to brainstorm out loud with people, he's resisting as hard as
I've noticed he's been
It's not
craving
his
that sword
style.
more and more.
It's not his style.
And also, this is a good example of how brainstorming can just kind of come up out of nowhere
Exactly.
in the right environment.
Very organically done.
Yes.
I'm going to ask everybody a question. Feel free to say pass, you know. But before you brainstorm, is there anything that you do, any habit, anything that you prefer to do before you start your brainstorming? Let's say you're going to start a brand new book, you're brainstorming about it. I'm going to throw out a couple of things. These are not ones I do, but I will tell you what I will do first. Afterwards. Maybe you take pencils and you break them, like they did on
what a waste of
Battlestar
office.
Galactica.
Why
My
would you
office
do that?
supply heart is
I know, that's an example. But the idea is breaking all the old concepts and getting rid of them.
I feel guilty the entire
some
time
people-
I was doing other things.
Some people, this is not me as well. Some people will go out and exercise and go for a long walk or run or lift weights. Actually, Steve Cannell, Steve J. Cannell, we used to do that. Stephen J. Cannell would used to do that. Would work out with weights before he sat down. Every morning he would get up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning to lift weights before he started working that morning. Yes, if you are brand new to writing, yes, expect to get up at crazy hours or be up extremely late.
Or at least keep a notebook next to your bed.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I'll do 2 things. And it depends on what my mood is at the time. One, I will meditate, Zen meditate, straight out, and just let my mind clear of all the junk that's going on. And the other thing I'll do, and thank you, Jen, and to Kathleen for introducing me to various groups that do this, performance work, cinematic style music, 2 Steps from Hell, immediate music, Radio Dog, blah, blah, blah. I keep going, future world music. And I will just put that on either on YouTube or just on iTunes and just play it and let the images in my head start to form from that music. One of you two.
Well, you mentioned you meditate. My brain does not do that. That is way too much to ask my brain to do. Like, think of nothing? No. Because my brain is mean to me and likes to do things it's not supposed to. So I have found, though, that when I go to sleep, I tell myself stories. And it started when I was younger. And when I was at Clarion, it was exhausting. So after the morning, I would go to my room and shut the door and take a nap. But a nap with quotes around it, because I would have my notebook right next to me and I would just shut out all the light, all the sound, and think about stories. And periodically, I would take off the sleep mask that was making sure I didn't know it was daytime anymore and write down frantically whatever it was I was thinking about, and then I would put it back on, lie back down, continue. It was a form of writing meditation. But it's been very helpful since then, too.
What I will do is I will allow, like a few scenes to kind of come into my head that kind of play out throughout the story, whether it's the beginning, middle, and end, or whether the beginning and the end, or whatever. Once that's in mind, then I will raid my film score collection, and I will put together a soundtrack. And once that is done, once I have like about 7, 8, 9, 10, really depending on the story. For the one I have for Ever Upward currently has 41 tracks.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big story. But once that's together and everything, then I will put it on my iPhone, and if the weather is great, I will go for a nice long walk around my subdivision. And I'll be out for about an hour. And I will just let that, play like over and over in my head until I can really see it really vividly play out, to the point where I can almost see that moment more than the actual scene in the movie that the music was composed for. So that's a major thing that I do before I start brainstorming.
Fedora or Jen, one or two?
Go ahead.
Me? I've already mentioned that I use concept art. I've also mentioned in past episodes that all of my stories are very character driven. So my brainstorming mostly comes from me drawing a whole lot of portraits and full bodies of all of my leads to help me figure out who they are. Because while I'm building their faces and the way they're standing or whatever, then that's them communicating to me about sort of their personality and things like that. And then you write up the whole, eye color, favorite food, favorite color, worst fear, life aspiration, just real quick character building jots on the sides of whatever piece of scrap paper I'm working on. But if I don't have an image of my character in my head that I have crafted myself, that person's not alive yet. Mm-hmm. So my brainstorming is very much character brainstorming. And usually once I've got a character that I know who they are and what they're about, they'll help me make the rest of it. As I mentioned, that I really wanted, do I want this to happen or that to happen story? Most of the story points that I enter a plot session with are the character moments. Like, I know at some point my main character and her best friend are going to have a heart-to-heart in a hospital room. It's like, how are we going to get to this place? Because I know already everything they're going to say in there. Because I know what that scene's about and what's led to it. And that's how my story happens, is around these two people, how they get to a heart-to-heart in a hospital room, how they get to talking someone down from a ledge, how they get to a fight with the bad guy, how do they get to a hug? Because most of the time things ends in hugs in my world. Everyone is hugging everyone else all the time, constantly, and that's usually the drawings that I make as well. Because everyone needs a good hug sometimes.
Hug it out.
Hug it out.
Fedora, and then Brad.
Well, you probably know that I write very early in the morning, and I may not finish an entire scene. Most of the time I don't, because I don't write that many words a day, as you already know. But, so I do know what's going to happen in the scene, and it's not a problem. If there's a new scene coming up, I usually know what that is. But if I don't, one of the things I like to do is take a glass of wine, go out to my jacuzzi, soak in the jacuzzi, get ready for bed, and let my subconscious tell me what the scene will be, and in the morning, it's almost always there. So you and I like to sleep our way to success.
I like
It's so bad because we're women. Oh my god.
Well, I was gonna say
Gender
before
roles.
Brad goes is sometimes we gotta get her out of our own way to get to undo the block,
That's true.
the
Yeah,
wall.
So
I like
mimicking
their
death,
method.
you are definitely out of your own way.
So yeah,
You gotta follow that one. I'm not there.
we're gonna follow by continuing.
with a sword.
To mimic that.
How did you know? No. So yeah, basically, I climb in myself and I start thinking. That's how I start brainstorming. However, one of the things that I actually do is exactly what I'm doing right now. I am sitting here currently with a sword laying across my chest because I don't want to hold it in my hands because I've been holding my hands all episode. Yeah. So basically, I will have my sword with me. This one happens to be named Zen Mountain, and I use it for meditation, and I use it for that. This one does not cut anything, and because of that, I will keep it with me. It's like a warm security blanket, if you want to call it that. It's cold steel.
Cold steel security
Cold steel
blanket.
security blanket.
He takes security
No,
very
but seriously
seriously.
though. And I will also then work out with my, not with these swords because I don't work out with real swords anymore. But I will work out with my bowkin or my practice swords. That's a story. We'll get into that in another episode. But
The self-harm injury episode?
yes, exactly. When we do the, oh my god, I almost lost a leg. But yeah. So I will work out with my swords and stuff like that as a way of thinking and doing all that kind of stuff. But really, I just like to sit there and think, and focus on where the story's going, what I need to think about, the ideas that I need to generate. I'll talk to myself about it, and I'll figure out where I want to go next and all that kind of stuff. But if I am gonna, the only movie I can think of, I know there are more, but it's the baseball bat from Jerry Maguire that he's walking around with, and he always thinks better when he's holding the baseball bat. I tend to think better when I have some.
Oh, and A Few Good Men.
Yes, that's it. That's
yeah.
the one. A Few Good
Yeah.
Men.
Oh,
I knew it was
good.
Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
I just want to point
baseball
out
bat.
that I have said
Holmes.
nothing
He
about
had
the
his
phallic
thinking.
objects that you guys have both
Pipe.
chosen.
He had his thinking pipe, and he would
Violin.
pluck his violin.
Yes.
He wouldn't bow it. He'd pluck it to think.
Yeah.
And when I talked about Zen meditation earlier, sometimes what I do is kata. Kata, which is also known as forms. It's
Yes.
bare hand or empty-handed or with my various weapons, I believe katanas.
I like Tai Chi for that too.
Yes,
Yeah,
Tai Chi's good.
good.
Tai Chi is very
That
nice.
was one of mine that I tend to do the Tai Chi. I'll carve. Meditate's a good one. I don't know. Mine's really boring. I tend to just open a notebook and start spewing crap. on there.
Whatever
Well,
works.
see,
works.
this is
It
a
works.
group of
Not
writers.
everyone's
I
a
think
Zen
it's okay.
master.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I do. Notebook and pen.
Yeah. Just start putting stuff on there. That tends to be the issue more often than not, is taking stuff out once I've... Here's 643 ideas that I can have to get from point A to one of these 67 point Bs. How much do I need to cut out of this?
Oh, goodness.
Actually, you guys
30
covered most of
twice.
mine because Kathleen, I actually do a lot. I also do, someone mentioned earlier, brainstorming while driving and while walking to and from work.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually a great time to brainstorm because, you can't actually be writing anything down and you're supposed to be, paying attention to your surroundings. So.
I love walking. Nature hikes, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, I was going to mention that Julia Cameron in The Artist's Way and her other books on, kind of freeing the writer within, kind of owning your voice. She talks about taking daily walks, and taking daily walks can be really helpful to just kind of clear your head in the same way that we've kind of mentioned doing. But also, thinking like your character can be a great exercise for when you're going walking, because I'll start noticing things that my character would notice that I wouldn't necessarily notice, and that's how I know I'm really in their head.
That's a good idea. And with that, thank you for listening to The Right Pack. Have a great week writing, and tune in next week for yet another interesting topic in the writing industry.
Brain NATO.
Brain NATO. Jar Jar NATO meets Brain NATO meets Shark NATO.
Jar Jar has no brain. He can't NATO.
Well, that's why
How
you have to have Brain NATO
That's
with
why,
him.
that's why he is in the brainstorm. He's trying to catch me.
He's the people gonna die. And with that, have a good one.
GatewayCon? What is GatewayCon? The Gateway to Publishing Conference and Convention, brought to you by St. Louis Writers Guild, is a new, unique experience for writers looking for their work to be either traditionally published, independently published, self-published, or to further their writing career. Coming in June 2017, GatewayCon will provide opportunities for writers to pitch their work to agents, hone their craft regardless if it is genre fiction or nonfiction, and obtain expert critiques. Get to meet vendors and experts who can help your writing get attention. And all writers get
get their work in front of their audience. Writers will get to network with agents, publishers, and others in your genre. Gateway to Publishing Conference and Convention will be in St. Louis, June 16th through the 18th, 2017. For more information, visit www.stlwritersguild.org or look for GatewayCon on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr. GatewayCon, opening the gateway for writers to reach their readers. Have you ever written an audio play? Have you even considered writing one? Visit www.windingtrailsmedia.com because currently we are looking for audio plays to produce. Again, that is www.windingtrailsmedia.com and visit calls for scripts. And while you're at it, please sign up for the newsletter and you will find that icon at the bottom of every page.
Did you know that Right Pack Radio has an international audience? How would you like to reach that audience in regards to your books, your book services, your author services, or more? Go to www.windingtrailsmedia.com and look under advertising for more information. If you don't have a script, that's not a problem. We will be happy to work with you. Once again, go to www.windingtrailsmedia.com for more information.
The new theme songs for Right Pack Radio were written and performed by Meredith Tate. All copyrights remain with her.